Hello. I represent an NGO called SERVE. That's an acronym for Students, Empowerment, Rights and Vision Through Education. We were founded quite some years ago by three people, Abbas Bengali, Rajesh Arora and me. But I don't really want to talk now about SERVE. I want to talk about why I am talking here at all. I am talking here about what SERVE does. SERVE fights to take the pain out of the Indian classroom. Just listen to this. Our children in schools, the students all over India, commit suicide more often than the students in any country all over the world. We have the highest student suicide rate in the world. Kids from 11 years of age onwards are resorting to it as a way of escaping the pain of school life. We think that's horrific. I have to say, the fire has been burning in me for a long time, and my colleagues whom I just named, they're the ones who are spreading the heat. And that's what the NGO does. School days, they say, are the best days of your life. What a lie. They are the worst. When you're putting your child into school, you are not sure that that child will survive what school means. I heard a class 2 child outside my office one day telling another boy that if he failed the Hindi exam that he was about to sit for, he would commit suicide. Can you believe it? It's at that level they're already thinking of it quite casually as an escape from what they go through. I need to spell out for you the details of what suicide looks like. It's going to be horrific, but I'm recounting an actual experience. This girl of 11, here in Calcutta, came home from school with her report form, saw the marks, and they were not complimentary. Her daddy was to return from abroad the next day. While he was away, she went to the almirah and took out one of her mother's saris, climbed up on the bed and tied the end of the sari to the fan hook, climbed down again and wrote a note for her dad, who was crazy about her. When she had finished the note, this 11-year-old girl, taking the chair with her, climbed up on the bed, stood on the chair, and then kicked the chair from under her, so the knots that she had made around her neck held firm. How was she to know that she would be hanging there for an hour in the most dreadful pain before she finally could not breathe at all? And then she died. And the note that the dad found the next morning when he breezed into her room to take her off to Newmarket to buy her that new dress that she promised, what did he find? He found the suicide note. And what did the suicide note finish with? P.S. Sorry for my bad spelling. Actually, that girl had taken sleeping pills, but she felt it wasn't working, and she insisted on dying because she had not done well in her English exam. Now, this is horrific. And what I want to say is not to tell you so much about that suicide as that it is happening more often from our schools in India than in any other country in the world. And that's matter for shame, disgrace and horror. And we are here to say to you, it's going on with your children. I met the dad the next day. It was a terrible experience. He was utterly destroyed with grief. What I gathered from that experience, I had known before in theory, and now it was happening as I looked on. The thing makes no sense. An education system that leads to the death of the children makes no sense. You would say, well, it was only one child. I remind you again of the statistics. We are the worst country in the world for child suicide, right down to that level of class 6. She was 11 years of age. We're all aware, of course, that suicide has many causes. The most famous cause is the Romeo and Juliet situation, and it happens, of course, through our schools. For whatever reason, she can't have him or he can't have her. And in our society, they're not even allowed to talk about it. And so the parents and the teachers pretend this doesn't happen. That the 14-year-old boy is not besotted by the 12-year-old girl, and that neither of them really know what's going on. But when they find out that the parents are against them, and then comes secrecy, and then comes fear, and then comes suicide. What are we doing? And that culture is not going to change. We talked to a boy one day, and we asked the boy, what will happen to you if you fail your pass into, he was in class 8, from class 8 into class 9? What will happen at home? He told us, not in the tidy list I'm going to call out for you now, but these were the reasons that he gave. My mother will wail. He didn't use the word cry, he used the word wail. My father will beat me. My joint family, the Khandan, they'll point with me and say, never before as a, whatever his name was, Gupta will say, never before has a Gupta failed an exam, you have disgraced us. The teacher will challenge me and say, after all I did for you, this is what you give me back, a failure? My principal will say, you have let down the whole school. The neighbours will say, don't play with this child, he's a failure. And every girl and boy in India doing an exam carries that load with his immense or her immense school bag on their backs every time they do an exam. Is it any wonder that when failure does occur, of course they feel like suicide? Any escape is better than this. And it's happening in our country, and it's happening to the children in your locality. Serve us here to tell you, we want to stop that, and we are working very hard to stop it, and we have plenty of ideas to help you stop it. But first of all, you must realize death doesn't choose because they are poor, because they are this state or that state, because they are anything but children in school. So I will conclude this part of what I want to say to you by reminding you that your children are at risk in school because of the suffering they are undergoing. I have only mentioned the tip of the painberg, suicide. What about all the suffering underlying that? That we'll talk about in a later talk. Thank you for listening. God bless.